So kind of the basis in a lot of the things for VCs like Jack, right? Jack was talking about having that story for the VCs is extremely important. And being able to tell that story concisely to larger groups, it's nice to have some sort of collateral that goes with it, right? Some sort of balancing act, photography, right? The full journey moving through it, what your product is, showcasing that demo, and having that in a deck makes it portable and simple for everyone to share and understand. Okay, so the third one we want to look at right here is the Keep It Simple, Stupid Startup Investor Deck. So this is about 10 slides right now. People don't have a very large attention span. So if you can actually keep their attention a little bit longer, if you have something that has a little bit of meaning, you can step beyond the 10 slides. I wouldn't worry too much about it. But really, trying to tell a picture simply in very few words shows that you have a refined idea of what you are trying to sell and solve, and you know very damn well who your customers are. And that's what we want to look at right here. And the first thing we're going to step into, which is what's your name again? Noel, the problem, okay? If people can understand the problem, that's going to be the base foundation for what you're trying to solve and show the rest of the value proposition throughout this deck and your story when you tell it over and over and over again as an entrepreneur, okay? So it's important that we highlight this here, like it says clearly on this slide. It's the very first thing, all right, that foundation, and make sure it's absolutely clear and explicit. And you might have a large picture of things that your service or product can solve, but what they want to do is have you have a focus on a specific target market, right, or target problem that you're going to attack, even though it could solve 30 or 40 different things. And that's what we want to look at first. This is going to be your personal story. So it's important that people have an emotional journey so that they can connect with what's going on with you, right? If there's no common ground between us when they're reading this, they're not really going to invest much of their mental thought or capacity in what is actually going to recur later on in this deck, all right? So it's very important you have a cohesive idea about how this applies to you and how this has led you to the point of solving that problem, whatever that problem may be, all right? Remember, guys, more images than anything else. It's important to show who you are. They want to see the face of the company. Times have changed. They don't care about just the brand name, all right? They want to know the people behind it, and they want to know what they're doing with it, okay? And so if we have to talk about you, that's what we're going to do. Remember that journey. How is that going to lead to the customers? How is it going to lead to solving that, right? Give them the full book, start to finish, like a children's book, quite frankly. Next slide, your validation, right? So you were saying that you had 5 customers. What's your name again? Zach. So Zach, you have 5 customers, and now what you're trying to do is you're trying to take those 5 customers and you want to scale it up, right? So what you need to show is from that 5, how that's going to convert if someone's going to give you money into a larger, margin of profit for these individuals. And that's what we're going to do with this validation. You need to prove to them with data that your problem is solved and there are people that are willing to jump on board with you, follow that emotional journey, and adopt your product or service, okay? And that's what's important here with the validation. Again, this is a one-slide thing, and look at some of these points here. So where do we start now? Where are we going? How did we validate it? How many times have we validated? Did we have to pivot? For instance, like with what you were doing, right? With that in-home encrypted security, everyone knows their token, no one can kind of break into it, all right? People want to understand how you're doing that because then they understand you are refining your image, your idea, your brand to what the customers are actually asking for, even if you had a general idea what the problem is before. Now here's the best part, the solution, right? So now you've gone through the customer validation. We're going to talk about, all right, great, we're not going to put a Band-Aid on it. We're going to actually show something that's going to fix the squeaky wheel, or better yet, replace it. Change all the hubs, we're going to have a solid honeycomb structure, right? Nice and strong, rigid, used in mining. That's what we want to do. So that unique value proposition, what we want to do is we want to show how we're going to repeat that over and over in all of our industries, whatever we're going to attack, and that's how we're going to solve that issue. And if people can understand that psychology, right, that pattern of what you're trying to fix and how you're going to do it, again, that's going to extend your value, and that's going to then be cohesive with the journey, the emotional journey you showed before, and what the problem was, all right? So every single slide in this deck that's going to an investor has to be compound, from the base all the way up to the top of this pyramid, and they all have to support until you hit the pinnacle. Because the pinnacle, guess what's happening there? That's where you ask for money. That's where you ask for people to sign up. That's your true conversion, right? Is getting those people to be like, you want to know something? I read 10 slides. I can agree with that. Let's have a further talk. And that's what we want to do. We want to get them to that next step. Demo. Jack, this is a big one for you. So like you said, when you're coming out in March, they're going to want to see the photography, right? They're going to get rid of that technology risk. They want to show that you actually have something that works, that minimally viable product. Because once they see that they can have that, they can put their money into it. They know that you have the manufacturing in place, all the mechanics, right? All the raw materials, so that you can continue to scale this up and really blow this thing wide open. And that's what's important, specifically for your demo too. How does this demo work? How did it work for the 5 customers that you had before? Use your screenshots, right? 3D diagrams, videos, whatever it might be, anything that can tell that story further, and that's what you're looking for. Again, it's another compound on top of it. Now they have really something to grab onto. It's no longer a blueprint. You actually have something where like, oh, wait a minute, there's something tangible here. These guys are actually doing something. And that's what you want to run with, all right? When an investor gives you money, they need to understand the size of the market that they're getting into. Is it too small? Is it too niche? And if it is too small or too niche, why is it that they should give you money to risk into something where it doesn't really look like they have that large of a return? So you need to show them the size of the market and how that market scales as your problem or product or solution begins to develop, okay? And it's important that you tell that story. Most of them will understand your product market, other than won't. They won't be expertise in your field. So you always have to assume that the person doesn't know, and every single slide gives the entire story, it's clear, and it stands on its own every time. How do you make money off of it? They're always asking for margins. Yes, we have our emotional story. Yes, it does solve a problem, right? But are you manufacturing at a loss? For how long? How's that going to work, right? How does that recur back to you? How does it accrue to the customers in terms of their value? Remember, it's not just about you. It's also for the people that you're solving the problem for, and you have to tell both sides of that story, because if you don't, you lack balance. And people will notice that imbalance. And then from there, you're not going to receive any of those funds because you haven't well thought out your entire picture of what you're trying to do. And don't be shy, like we had on the last slide for talking about the market, is to stress your competition. It's important to put those people out, put everything out on the plate, be very honest and transparent with the people that you're going up against, other people that have your technologies, all right? You got to bury the ego a little bit and realize these are the people I'm against, and I'm going to show you why I can do it better. And they want to see that. That makes them more comfortable that you're giving them everything on one plate. This is good. So we're going to speak to the 5 customers we currently have, or people currently using our MVP for our financial product, right? Any sort of traction you had, any sort of numbers, whether it's social media conversion, website visits, product demo tries, whatever it might be, you want to tally and count absolutely everything that has to do with your product and people using it. Whatever it may be, anything that drives towards the sale or people using that service, you need to talk to it. Because with these numbers, when they talk about this traction, then in their minds, when they apply it to your financial model, whatever your valuation might be, they can see how that scales. So for every dollar they put in, they're going to understand what that payback is. All right? And this is very key. And you have to be very clear on this, and it's going to take a lot of thought to understand how that traction is going to build, how do we record it, and how do we show that. And the nice thing about traction is show your partners. Okay, it's not easy to do a lot of these things on our own. You know, for instance, even in my company, I've had to integrate with a lot of different partners, and doing that gives you the clout, and it also gives you a lot of insight to what's going on further in your problem, so you can also better understand it. You can better serve the needs of the people that truly need your product or service. Team, this is one of the biggest items that the investors, VCs, angels are going to focus on. You need to have a solid background of people of experience. It needs to be diverse. They need to show that other people are committed to what you are trying to do and solve. Because having that emotional journey just for yourself is one thing, but if you can show that you have captured other people that are willing to take that risk with you, that means they're not just investing in you. They're investing in a team and 8, 10, 12 other people that are trying to jump on board. And having a minimum of 3 people carrying lead roles is a nice way to balance that stool, because a stool doesn't sit on 2 legs, does it? No, it doesn't, right? So having those 3 legs is what you're looking for, right? CEO, CTO, CXO, whatever that XO is. Could be a marketing position, anything. Chief data officer, doesn't matter. Put those things in place, and now people know, okay, I see the expertise, I see the team, so not only am I investing in the product, that comes secondary to the people that I want to invest in first. So Jack, I don't want to put my money not only in the laser, but I want to be guaranteed that when I give you my money, I can trust you that you're going to make the right choices to do what needs to be done with it. And that's what they're worried about. Because when people earn this money, these investors, this is a lot of work they put over the years, and it doesn't want to go to waste. So a whole other part of that risk is the people risk. So if you can mitigate that by showing the background, that experience that you have, that's going to make them a lot more comfortable with handing over that money to you so you can continue on with your project. This is important, okay? The ask is, how much money do you need? What are you going to do with it? How does that money pair against the current pre-money valuation of your company if you're not making any funds right now, if you're just coming off, you know, right out of the gate? And that's going to be key, because then they understand, okay, so now that you have my money, how do you plan on spending it? They want to see some sort of simple plan here for how that expenditure is going to go out, right? That whether it be CapEx, if you're building lasers, anything of that function, all right? How much is it going to go per month? So what is the burn rate of this company? So if I give you $1.5 million, how long is it until you run dry on that equity that I've just given you, until we have to re-up on that liquidity? Because that means you've got to then change your focus to go back out and continue to raise more funds rather than running the business. So you got to make sure you ask for the right amount. Do not shortchange yourself. And if people see you as cheap, they're not going to look at it. They'd rather spend the money on the Ferrari than spend it on the Honda Civic. And that's going to be seen over and over and over again. So make sure you get a good valuation, understand those trading multiples, ask for help from people that are certified financial analysts, and to help you push through on these things and build out that model, find the valuation, and apply it to how you're going to burn it and what you're asking for. Because that's what it is. You're going to spend that money because that's what you have to do. You got to build the resources, get it off the ground running. How are they going to find you? Any final message you want to give them, any appropriate information, and a nice solid graphic to kind of give them what they need to push them over the finish line. Does that make sense? This is 10 slides, right? If you have to go a little bit beyond it, don't be shy, okay? But skip all the words, okay? Skip what you learned in college or any time before that. That's all junk. People have a limited attention span. Pictures, quick numbers, big and bold, high contrast, all right? And tell the story. That's what people want. Orange and white, high contrast, right? Keeps your eye on it. And just remember, it's not about the deck, it's about you. So how do you talk about you? That's where you're going to go. So just use this as something that is a supportive device, not a leading device. All right? I'm Alexander McCaig. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Tartle. I had a problem that I had noticed, right? And I'm like, well, how do we solve this? Because I'm looking at the globe. Is that all these tech companies, which about 70% of the people in the United States are using for social media purposes, receive $472 every second. And they received that last year selling all of our information. So as my contention is like, how do I take that information, that value that these people had that we're all creating, and give that back to people so that they can receive the value for it, rather than just one finite person doing it, right? Because the person who is running these most social media platforms, they're not going through the creative effort to actually create the value in their system, because the systems come from people using it, people creating. So that asymmetry is something I wanted to fix. So I created the world's first personal data marketplace. Free to join, no barriers to entry. And it's the only place where you can actually own and sell your information globally. And we offer other things like VPN services, be your own bank, you choose. But I do encourage you to go on, sign up, it's free, tell all your friends, and link up your social media profile and start getting paid. All right? Cool deal. Thank you.